Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome back to the same old place that you laughed about. Well, the names have all changed since you've hung around, but the dreams have remained and they turn around.
Good morning, AISD. How are ya?
Morning.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for joining me for our third annual AISD All-Staff Convocation. We are meeting again under one virtual roof, so thank you and welcome back for helping us coordinate this incredibly complicated district-wide event. But before we start our work today, I want to say how proud I am of all the work that we've done this past school year. I know that last year was filled with a lot of drama. It was really hard for us to kind of stay focused on the right things, but I have to take my hat off to our staff and our students and our community. We really, for all that craziness, from the budget crisis to the changes in the accountability measures from the state, we really did focus on kids. We got the outcomes that they deserve, and we know that this is just the beginning of an ongoing legacy of great success in Austin. So for the second consecutive year, I just want to be sure that everybody understands what these outcomes have meant for us. At least 80% of all students in AISD met the state standard in every subject area, and that included students who were tested through our TAX-M and our TAX-ALT special education assessment program. So I just want you to know that we increased the number of test takers that we had. We increased the number of test takers who would typically not be as successful on our accountability measures, but they did indeed succeed. And so we did not move backwards one step in this area in our district. So I just want to thank you on behalf of families and kids in Austin for doing a great job. Now, I really want you to just take a moment to turn to the person next to you and do what we call in middle school, you give them a love tap. And a love tap, Alex, would you please join me? A love tap goes a little bit like this. It's a tap, it's a small pat, it's appropriate, right? And it's a gesture of appreciation. So if you could just turn to the person next to you and just give them a love tap, see? It's typically good just to stay in this area. Stay in this area. All right. But I know that it was a really tough year for everyone. And so to get started, I wanted to take an opportunity for us to kind of unpack some of the emotion, and I would even argue some of the pain of last school year. About a month ago, I read about a student group, a student theater group called Paramount Theater Program for high school students. And I was really impressed by their work. And most importantly, it had tons of Austin Independent School District high school students in it. And they practice a form of theater called ethnographic theater. And using this approach, the students actually go out to the public, they talk to them about what's on their mind, and then they come back, interpret it from a student's perspective, and then just kind of self-write, direct, and pull together a piece around that issue. Now, the challenges of our school budget experience, their cuts, their effects on education, on our kids, were foremost in the minds of our students. So what you're about to see is a piece based on a true story about education, about the education of a student who has an autistic brother, and what the experience was like for them as they were unpacking in their own way what the budget cuts meant to them. Now, it's told from the mother's perspective, and it's presented to you in the student's voice. I'm honored to have them with us today. Please welcome the Paramount Youth Theater Group.
The financial landscape is bleak. That was the message tonight at a community meeting hosted by AISD to get input on next year's budget. The district is bracing for an estimated $94 million deficit. Fox 7's Zoran Petrowski, she has been following this story. Tonight, she's live at Reagan High School.
he turned 2, we took him in to get his 2-year-old vaccines. Later that evening, he started having febrile seizures and had to be admitted to the hospital. He was there for 3 days. When we finally got to take him home, we noticed something was different. Up until this point, he could speak 25 or 30 words and was developing like a normal 2-year-old would. Suddenly, he lost his speech. We couldn't talk to him. We couldn't play with him. He was blank. For the next month, he didn't respond to anything. The doctors weren't helping.
He'll be fine. He's reacting to the trauma of being in the hospital.
There's nothing we can do.
And then they told me,
We've run some tests. It appears your son has autism.
This is just something that happens.
my son went from distant to angry. He was getting very frustrated that he couldn't communicate. He would have meltdowns. It started when he was overwhelmed, usually in public if there were too many people. It started with his hands over his ears. He would hum. Humming led to screaming. Screaming led to falling on the floor and kicking. He would bite himself. He would hit his head on the floor. He constantly had bruises on his head. He couldn't make himself stop. This would happen at the grocery store, at a restaurant, at home, anywhere. The scariest time was in the middle of a parking lot. Cars were driving by. He laid down and had a meltdown in the parking lot. I was horrified. I started him in school when he was 3 years old. He went through the Early Childhood Intervention public program from the ages of 3 to 8. During this time, I did not see much progress. They didn't think my son could accomplish much of anything. They just kind of babysat and retained him. They just assumed that he couldn't learn, and I know that is not the case. I would ask the teachers to work with my son on the simplest things. Can you teach him to tie his shoes?
I'm sorry, he can't do that.
Can you teach him to write his name?
I'm sorry, he can't do that.
I bought him a computer device that will help him communicate. Can you teach him how to use it?
I'm sorry, he's just not able to do that.
The day I knew it was time to leave was when I went to go pick up my son from school, and he was crying. I asked the teachers what was wrong. We had an incident.
He wasn't behaving.
He had a meltdown.
He threw a fit.
We had to restrain him.
It was for his own good.
When they said they restrained him, they really strapped him to a chair. I realized we couldn't be here anymore. I had recently been to a conference and heard of a strong autism program in Austin. I told my husband, we have to do this.
I've lived here all my life. This is my home.
We have to do this for our son.
Our family is here.
My husband agreed to go observe the program in Austin. It was called ABA, Applied Behavioral Analysis. And their approach to teaching children with disabilities is to break down learning into the tiniest steps. It is an expensive program, extensive and one-on-one. We watched every child in the room receive individual attention. They were learning to read by acting out stories. The teachers made learning fun and accessible. The students were treated and respected as people, not disabled people, people. It didn't take long before my husband turned to me and said,
Put our house on the market. We're moving here.
we uprooted and left our home in North Texas to move to Austin. And I'm not exaggerating when I say we saw immediate change. After 1 week in the program, we realized he hadn't had one meltdown. And the teachers never once told me he couldn't do something. Can you teach him to tie his shoes?
Yes, he can learn to do that.
Can you teach him to write his name?
Yes, he can learn to do that.
I bought a computer device that will help him communicate. Can you teach him how to use it?
Yes, he can learn to do that. There is no limit to what your son can do.
Within a month, he was able to use his device to say, I want cookie. He could tell me when he was tired. He then began using his device to tell me how he was feeling. And now he could say,
Mom, I love you.
he can go into a crowded room now and not have a problem. He can sit down to dinner with us and does not have to worry about it. He can do his chores. His behavior is 20,000 times better than it was before we moved here. Because of how strong the program was, the specialists helped the kids with autism become a part of the school culture. son was making friends. There were kids inviting him to birthday parties and wanting to hang out with him. He's happy. You can see it. He's been in the program from 1st to 6th grade. I am asking you, the district, to not cut this autism program. If the state keeps making cuts this dramatically, within the next few years, my son's class will go to 18 to 22 students. That's not going to work. Kids with autism need intense one-on-one teaching. He isn't going to get the individual attention he needs. He's never been exposed to that, and it could bring back past behavior. It's hard to watch your son make such progress in a great program, and then watch that program get taken away, because that's essentially what's happening. Please, don't take this away.
I'm proud to say that despite our major budget cutting, we have preserved this very effective class in Austin to meet some unique student needs. It is called Applied Behavior Analysis, and it does work. While we had to reduce our budget by $35.6 million this year alone, and will face another $20 million in the upcoming budget process, we were able to preserve things that we thought that this school community openly and aggressively articulated were important for us. Things like all-day pre-K, librarians, magnet school transportation for access, and the second planning periods, just to name a few. So by targeting our priorities, we really believe that we'll be able to continue to support programs like this, but you're right, if the state keeps down the path that they're going, we'll all have to have a new conversation about what we really value as residents and citizens in the state of Texas. But I am very proud of what our budget process has said about us, that we are a learning and caring community, and kids like this really do matter. I'd like to present the actors from Paramount Youth Theater for you today, and their names will come up on the screen in a second. But would Kimberly Lofton from Hendrickson High School please join me? Lucy Kalar from LASA, Rebecca Patel from LASA, Sarah Lorenzo Sanchez from Austin High, Alexia Casanova from Bowie, Eliana De La Garza from McCallum, Christopher Putney from Garza, Ronan Malono from LASA, please. Oh gosh, tell me one more time. Malomo. Sydney Anthony from Hendrickson. And there are two students that would like to just step forward for a second when I call your name. Antonio Riviera III from Aikens, and Caitlin Duplashan from McCallum. So would you please give them a round of applause? I'm sure he's backstage trying to organize stuff, but would Nat Miller, the director of the program, please step forward too? Thank you, Nat. They were very gracious to my crazed calls about, can you come and do this, and can we do all this all over again, even though they had closed out the season. So really, I appreciate your time and patience and all the extra work students did over the summer so they could be here today. So we really appreciate you. And these students are going to help me in a moment with some more exercises, so feel free to do your theatrical exit, okay? But there are other people that have had to make some tough decisions along the way. They take the brunt of the public reaction to some of our work. Most of them are elected officials. We have lots of committed representatives, both in the county, the city, and the state. But the one that really matter to us the most are the people that are elected by the people of Austin. I have with me today our board president, our 3-term board president, Mr. Mark Williams. Will you please stand and be recognized? Now, in addition to all of us who are sitting here, we have administrators, science, career and tech folks, we have Ed Austin, we have family members of the students who just participated today, we have principals, and we have 12 schools behind us that are also being kind of hub sites for schools, and there are a lot of other people in their own departments and everything all over the district. But I just wanted to point them out over here to my right. Please wave, and please wave back to us. Anderson, McCallum, Crockett, and Bowie High Schools. Please say hello to everyone here. Wave. We want to know that you can hear us. Hello. Okay, they're sort of, maybe they're doing something else. There they go. Okay, thank you. We have Covington, Burnett, Cassis, and Sanchez, 2 middle schools and 2 elementary schools here in the middle. Please say hello. Tell me when they're waving. Hello. Oh, it's a really long delay. Everybody told me it was 1 second. Uh-oh, look at Sanchez. Oh, yay, nice Cassis poster. And then we have on the left, Summit, Baldwin, Linder, and Oak Springs Elementary. They're waving in advance. I think they're getting this. They're getting the idea. They're like, what are they doing? Why are they? Okay. So technology isn't perfect, but I do want to thank our tech people under the leadership of Oscar Palermo, who was working on this while doing board meetings and everything else and dealing with my multiple changes throughout the process. So thanks to all the people behind the scenes that you can't see and could make all this go away in 2 seconds if they really wanted to. So, but it is difficult to get us all under one roof, but we are a pretty complicated system. We serve over 86,000 kids in 120 sites. We're managing a $1 billion budget, and we're one of the largest employers in our region, making us 4th in the area for employment. And so it means that we have sort of this big responsibility, not just to our kids, but also to the health and economic well-being of the city of Austin and our region. But before I get one step further, I want to thank this gorgeous, wonderful, incredibly gracious principal. Where is he? No. Lucio Calzada, who is hosting us and hosting all these virtual sites today. Please stand and be recognized. Now, we're here for a couple of different reasons today. I really want to celebrate and make sure that everybody knows what we've done well and what we have some challenges in. And I also want to frame the work for the upcoming school year, just to kind of put a little umbrella over the section of what we have to push hard on as we launch the 11-12 school year. But our work actually began in this room over a year ago, because we can't really separate this school year or the next one from where we were last year. Trying to do multi-year planning, trying to get ahead of our budget challenges, while also staying focused on all these things that our students continue to remind us that are important to kids and families, took a lot of extra work. So I know that the public schools were center stage in our budget discussions, the grueling state budget process, and that will not conclude until the board's final vote on Monday. Now, it has been difficult. We've lost staff members that we care about. We've lost programs that we know were good programs, but when we were given 2 difficult choices, we kind of picked one over the other. And so nothing has been perfect about the process, but I will say that we have worked very hard to try to ensure that our priorities really led our decision making. It went one step further. It put this community through the ringer. I don't think Austin ever realized or really internalized the depth at which we were so vulnerable at a state and legislative level. And we just had a board meeting last night. Moke and Casey, our advisors at the legislative level, were with us. And you only had to listen to that presentation, go get it off the web if you haven't seen it. But it's a pretty depressing picture. And this is just the beginning for Austin. So while we have lots of things that we could point to as excuses for why we don't serve kids, I will say this, that I know people feel like they've lost a little bit of the Austin ISD legacy, policy, but we're going to do our very best to keep it all intact and actually do the same quality job, if not better, even though we have limited resources. So I'm going to ask my theater friends to help us walk through and unpack and perhaps bring some closure to some of this pain. I'm going to try a little exercise that's called mirror image. So I'm going to ask my actors to please join us, and you're going to do in a moment, but just watch. Just watch. You can get set up. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a sentence, and I want you to think about the sentence before you do anything. You're not going to move. You're not going to do anything until I say action. And then I'll say stop when we're done. So I need you to look at each other and determine who's going to be partner A and partner B, because A will go first. Remember what I said about A's last year? No one remembers? They're very passive-aggressive. So here comes your first sentence. We will have to do more with less, $35.6 million less, in our budget this year, followed by another $20 million reduction. Think, build up your emotion, action. See, you're mirroring the person. You're not talking. Stop. All right. So, the people in the audience on the screens, you should have space to stand up, get yourself some space, find an A and B partner. The same thing is going to happen in this room. There's space probably up until you get to the tippy top. You can sit next to the person, but I'm going to encourage you to stand up and get a little movement in your body. So for that, you can kind of come down on the stage if you want to be brave. David Lucier, Tracy Lunoff. You want to be my partner? And I'm going to read a statement. Come on, stand up. Y'all can do it. You got to kind of move. Remember, this is all right. All right, so I'm going to read another statement. You want to be A? Sure. Okay. I'm going to read another statement. There you go. Our virtual friends out there, please stand. Look at McCallum. You cannot have an art. Is that McCallum?
I don't know if they've gotten it yet.
What do they do? They look like they're like watching a football game. McCallum, get out of your seats. Oh, there they go. All right. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to read another statement. You're going to think about it, think about your emotion, right? And A is going to go, and B is just going to follow them. And remember, you're on very high bleachers. Don't get too crazy. All right, if you can hear this, clap once. If you can hear this, clap twice. If you can hear this, clap 3 times. Let's go. And the sentence is, AISD is sending $126 million this year to the state to distribute to other districts as a recapture payment, totaling over $1.3 billion over the last year, and sending more to the state this year than it did in years past. Think about it, build up your emotion, and action. No talking. Freeze. Here's your next sentence. AISD cannot afford salary increases for its employees this year and probably the next. Okay, this is the B person. Think about it. B, think about it, and action. Freeze. Here's your next sentence. A's again, we may face more state budget cuts in the years ahead, up to as much as $158 million by 2018. Think about it. Action. Freeze. And here's your last one. For the first time in over 60 years, I learned this one last night from our legislative consultant. For the first time in 60 years, the legislature failed to provide for school district funding entitlements. Partner B, think about it. Think about it. Action. Freeze. All right. Thank you for participating. You're a very expressive group. You did a great job. Thank you, students. And it's really hard to talk about like any future work when you still have like stressors from last year. The idea that I'm still doing this year's budget and we're about to start we'll start the school year before I actually get the action is, it's like the school year that just won't end, right? You just can't end last school year, no matter how challenging it was. But we're going to try to bring some closure to that and start thinking about the future. Now, with these stressors kind of hanging over our heads, I wanted to try to relieve as much anxiety about this school year and as much into the next school year as possible. So our planning to build this year's budget has resulted in the ability to really stabilize our work and to focus in that multi-year budget planning concept. So we've been looking for 2 years out, and so here's where I have ended up. I can only speak for myself. I'm the superintendent. I am not the Board of Education. They get the final vote, but this is what you can expect from me. But it all hinges on us honoring our work for the 11-12 budget. First, this school year, as we're doing our budget planning for the next fiscal year, I will not be seeking a declaration of financial exigency for the coming year. Second, I will not recommend a reduction in force. Third, there is no proposed action from this administration for a tax ratification election. And I promise you won't have any surprises from the administration for the budget action on Monday. Now, again, the board has to do their part. And the sooner they take their action and start working on the future budgets and holding the line on all the decisions that we made, the better off we are in the out years. But I can work so that when we're planning and working through this school year, people don't have to worry about another shoe dropping while we're in the middle of the school year, or even for the end of the school year. But I can only make that commitment if everybody holds the line on the decisions we've already made. Now, I would ask you to turn to your neighbor and express your mirror image feelings on that, but they told me I'm kind of running out of time. So I won't do it, but think about the emotion that you're feeling and just kind of turn your face and use your eyes to express how you feel about those statements. Okay, that's scary. Does anybody have happy eyes? Is that you? I gave you my ticket, didn't I? No? No? I didn't? Okay. Yeah? Okay. He doesn't know why he's here. Does anybody have happy eyes? Okay. Yeah. All right. So now that I told you a little bit about what I won't be doing, right? I mean, this is better news, but not the best news. But what we won't be doing, I want to just kind of highlight the way we're thinking about the buckets of our work. So we have to hold the line on this current budget strategy. But then we have to move forward with 3 big concepts in mind. We have to prioritize, stabilize, and optimize. We're not done yet. And I'm going to tell you some of the things that we need to do. So in prioritizing our work, which is what you experienced in the last budget process, was based on us being able to really tease out those things that were most important in terms of both our work and meeting student needs. Now, to stabilize our efforts, it means that we have to ensure that all the work that we're doing in this area is really aligned to the state standards, that the expectations that the board have set forth in the strategic plan, but we have a strategic direction we're expected to meet. And then we kind of have to let go, in other words, optimize everything that isn't directly related to that. So we can either A, make it a reduction. Remember, we haven't turned the corner on our budget drama. So we either have to A, use it as an ongoing budget reduction, or we make the decision to cut it but reinvest it in something else. And so if we got smarter and better at this, I do think I can do more around human capital, like invest more in our staff, talk more about salaries and increases, and kind of rebuilding our health plans. But I can't do that if we kind of go back into a mode of leaving things the way they were. We can't talk about things that were otherwise sacred cows or areas of the district that over time people have just said you can't do. Now, we have a lot of things that really don't have to do with people or kids that we could talk about: operational efficiencies, infrastructure, facilities, and buildings. But it won't happen if every time we come out of the box we get a showstopper and we can't really have that conversation. And that's typically what pulls the trigger on people just saying, then we need to reduce our staff. I think that we have reduced enough. We need the people we have. Now we just need to get tighter about how we do it. So that is what prioritize, stabilize, and optimize means. Now, this year, our big district work is going to have to be in large part about concluding or bringing a resolution to a lot of the work that started this past year. So like I said, those multi-year budgets, the 3-year plan that we tried to lay out so that we had one, yes, really bad year. But the out years don't have to be this bad if we actually finish the following things. We need to finish the facility master planning, right? I just had a board meeting last night that I'm going to tell you, we can't have it we cannot start every conversation in Austin with no first and then try to find our way back to a starting place. We need space, space as a school community to talk, to vet, to create, to at least try to engage with each other in constructive, positive ways. Now, I'm going to be presenting some recommendations to the board in September. The board's going to have to talk about this through the rest of September, October, and into November. But we're going to need an action in November so that I know what's in the play box and what's outside of the play box for us around facility master planning. But when I look at people and the people we need to do this job, and then remember the play we just saw, and then say, we're going to, fight over a facility or whether or not we can change the way we're doing our business, they don't weigh the same to me, and you need to know that about me. We are a business of people, adults, who work with little people who are going to become big people again. So I need people, and that stuff around us becomes less and less important to me because I need quality teachers, quality leaders, support staff, and ancillary staff to make the child's experience in school the very best it can be. And while I want all that everybody else wants, we boil down to people. And I can't have my staff ripping its hair out every single day with drama and anxiety. So let's let go of the stuff that isn't that important and focus on people and invest in them because y'all are going to make and break it for kids every single day. And I am committed to you in making that happen. But I need some flexibility on the other stuff. Thank you. We're going to have to, the board has charged us, and I think this is great. While money may be shrinking, it doesn't mean you can't rethink what you have and do other things. I was as shocked as anybody when the Moody family stepped forward and said, we'd like to give the district millions of dollars to help build a new school program. We have people out there that really want to help us continue to create designs that make sense for the needs of our kids, for the future, and for the real-time families that are coming that have real challenges today. But that means that we have to really enhance that academic vision. What are the programs that our kids need? What is the data saying that we need to support our staff? And we really build those things out. But none of that supports of whether it's technology, budget, or facilities should be driven by anything other than academics. So having a richer portfolio of academic options that are aligned to the data and the needs is going to be essential for our success. Now we're going to have to also navigate a successful transition from what was once known as TAKS to STAR and end of course exams. The board has hordes of policy work. Make no mistake, anything that the state couldn't figure out, they just put on local school districts to battle it out locally. And what we're finding is that there's a ton of policy work, and it will really affect kids and families and whether or not they can graduate and how they rank in our schools. So we have that kind of work going on one side, but then the other piece is that what that test actually tests is really different. And if you talk to our academic officer, Ramona Trevino, she'll tell you, we better be teaching the standards. And it goes deep. It doesn't go wide, it goes deep. Do you have a basic level of the concept, a medium level of understanding, and then a college-ready level of understanding, or do you not understand it at all? And now that we've changed that, it's going to lead to what I'm going to talk to you later about in developing the whole child and some of the bigger systems we're going to have to change to meet these outcomes. And another piece of our big work is going to be about really embracing the multiculturalism of what Austin is and what our school public looks like. If you listen to any of the demographers in our region or in the city, they will tell you that our student population is changing so rapidly. The tsunami is actually happening right now. We're just, you know how it is in public education, we're just like a little slow on the uptake, but it is happening. And if you're down in southeast or northeast Austin, that tsunami is just spilling over schools. Those principals, like up in those elementary schools, anybody up there, anybody in this audience who's up there in northeast Austin, those elementary schools, we're going to have like 2 buildings in one building of kids. And like just the movement and the numbers are going to be huge for Austin. And so it means that today's work about like being bicultural and biliterate is just so yesterday, right? I mean, we should have been there years ago, and then this year, should be more about the global society and planning for more diversity, but we still haven't really gotten our arms around what it means to be living with language learners in our community. And so the population growth in that is going to be something that we have to do a better job of serving just not only the students, but also the families. And then there's something that we have to talk about for both our kids and our staff. You know that we're self-insuring now. And so under self-insurance, it becomes essential that we manage the health of our staff. We personally manage ourselves, and we create systems that support our staff in doing this. We have to manage the cost of our insurance, which means we want to get preventive, we want to get on the front end of it. You'll hear more about that throughout the school year from our CFO, who's tracking those numbers carefully. But I know that people in our district have self-reported. They want to work on obesity, they want to work on stopping smoking and things like that, but we have some priorities that we're going to try to assist you with. And that also means that our kids have to be healthier. And I'll share some data later with you about what that's looking like. But we're not just a school system. Remember I said that we have a lot of people around Austin who are really depending on us to keep Austin a healthy, viable city. So just last month, Forbes magazine said that we're the city that's best positioned to grow and prosper in the next decade. Further, Forbes pointed to our job creation and our high rates of immigration and migration of educated workers and healthy increases in the population and numbers of kids, which will kind of reinforce that growth. And in his groundbreaking book called Creative Class, Richard Florida identified Austin as a handful of cities in our country that nurtures the creative class and therefore serves as a springboard for any future economic well-being. So what this tells us is that educators like us are in the center of all of this. And it is our efforts to work with our kids and ensure that education is at a high quality that this entire picture kind of hinges on. So Kiplinger magazine declared Austin the number one best city to live in for this decade, followed very quickly by a Wall Street Journal report that had Austin as the fastest having the fastest average net growth during the same period. So our ability to develop this opportunity really depends on us, and we know that if we're going to have the local talent we need to fill all the jobs that they're projecting for the future, it's going to first be nurtured and developed in Austin Independent School District. But we're off to a great start, right? This past year may have been a bumpy ride, but we accomplished a great deal. And like I said, despite the budget distractions and our challenges with accountability, we did get some big things done. So I want to share with you, in case you don't know what you've done, a top 10 list of things that I kind of feel like never really made the headlines, but you know, they made the headlines with me, and as your superintendent, I did share these with the board, and I hope that everybody in the community is listening right now, because we actually implemented one-way and two-way dual language immersion this last year for a little over 1,000 students. But this year, when we launch, we'll be serving 7 times more, 8,024 students more than we did last year. We've grown from 10 pilots last year to 54 one-way language immersion schools under our new, revised, research-based bilingual program. So congratulations to people who've been working on that. And we're a year ahead. We're a year ahead. We said it would take us more time than this. I wanted to give you an update on staffing. People kind of forget, once the drama of the budget's over, they're like, oh yeah, you know, they're back to school. But we're still working with staff that were affected by the RIF. Of the 1,100 teachers and staff that were affected, we were able to help about 800 of those employees. We're still working with about 316, and even though they may not have positions right now, please continue to encourage them to call our Human Resources office. We really want to try to help them. So thank you, Michael Hauser, Pam Hall, and others who've been on top of that. Surprisingly, our academic challenges that we had last year around math and science is the area where we actually saw the largest gains. And the largest increases were actually realized by our Hispanic and economically disadvantaged students. And that is great news for college and career readiness. While it's a little bit of old news that we received the $63 million Teacher Incentive Fund grant that helps promote quality teachers going to challenging schools and getting better outcomes for kids, we were thrilled to write the checks for $6.7 million in bonuses this school year to 1,330 teachers for their outstanding work. And we'll be expanding this program through more East Austin schools this school year. AISD has 216 nationally board certified teachers, continuing to lead the state in national board certification for 10 out of the last 11 years, and that is extraordinary. You know, and our work is not going unnoticed. While, you know, when I got here, we were having some, you know, challenges with working with partners, the work of Austin is finally getting outside of the state of Texas, and we're hearing more from national funders and partners. We have 2 big partners that have come forward to want to support AISD and long-term work. One is CASTLE, which is a collaborative for social emotional learning, and the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. It's an arts initiative called Any Given Child that is working to ensure that we have arts for every child at the elementary level, so they have kind of that whole child experience that we talk about oh so much. And so this is an extraordinary recognition, if you will, of AISD and helps serve to achieve our vision. We also had the highest percentage of students score commended on the TAKS, making us #1 with Big 8 districts in Texas. And by the way, it was over 30%, which is the first time in our history. I also just wanted to give a plug. This is our number 3. I kind of feel like it was number 1, but I went back and forth and I didn't want to change it again. But attendance went up. I know it's going to sound tiny, but when we are a behemoth of an organization like this, remember we tried to move, we kept saying, does anybody remember the number? If you move up attendance district-wide by 1 percentage point, how much money does that generate for schools? About $6 million. Thank you, John Alawney, for listening to me. You actually wrote the version to track it. I remember now. But anyway, our attendance went up 0.5 percentage point, right? And that meant $2.5 million in real money that is getting pushed back into schools that were able to generate that through better attendance. And so while it sounds like a small thing and people don't understand it, but I told Bill Karich, who's our Chief Performance Officer, it's so statistically significant, I've got to say it over and over again. And so it's not enough to meet the gold standard, it's none of those things, but it is huge. And that meant that kids wanted to be with us more, come to school more, and I can't work that from my office. That's because of people like you out in schools really encouraging them to come to school. So thank you so much. I thought, maybe number 2 would be important for us to share because of our long-term legacy with the tax test. Looking back in 2003, this past year was the last year of tax. I just wanted to snapshot for you what it looked like over the last years. We were not going backwards as a system. The former administration and this one has still been plugging pretty hard. So just know we closed achievement gaps on average of about 20 to 25 percentage points, and it went as high as 39 percentage points in science. So, we always talk about eliminating the achievement gap, and no one really, we go from one year to the next and people forget what happened the year before. But when you look over the last several years, this district made a deep commitment to that, and your data shows it. So congratulations. I didn't do all that, you did, so we really appreciate it. And I thought maybe number 1, while it's not, the best data point, meaning, I think we made bigger gains and improvements in other areas, but I just wanted to end on the thing that we all work for, and it's graduation. We had 4,182 students graduate on time this year, and 84% of them applied to college. Both of those numbers are up from last year and the prior years, so that is a huge, statement about what we really value and what we're all working for. So congratulations on your your high school graduates. Now, that's big district stuff. That's what happens when we all work together. And then there are other people that are plugging away in their unique departments and job roles in the district. But could you please give a shout out, especially if you're there at other schools and that person is sitting next to you. But I'd like to recognize Madonna Ramp of Travis High School, who was just selected, I just read the press release from the government yesterday, as one of 15 U.S. Department of Education teacher ambassadors in the nation. Where is she? I asked. There she is. Stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up. We were emailing yesterday. You didn't say you were going to be here. God. Okay, anyway, I'm glad she's here. We have Kyle Vogie from Aikens High School, who was named the All-American Teacher of the Year for Science in the state of Texas. 15 of our schools went up a level in our state rankings, despite the fact that the state raised those performance bars at the last minute. But anyway, congratulations to those 15 schools. Crockett, congratulations for being recognized as an outstanding high school. It's the Marzano High Schools that work. It was, they were acknowledged by the Southern Regional Education Board. Our CFO, Nicole Conley-Abram, who I hope is at the office working on those budget numbers, was recognized by the Austin Business Journal as a as the nonprofit CFO of the year for the city of Austin. If she's over here, would she please stand and give us a wave? Fulmore Webb Middle Schools were winners of the HEB Fit Campus Awards. We have Heather Fleming from Summit Middle School, who was the winner of the Texas Medical Association's Excellence in Science Teaching Award. And we have a couple of bus drivers, Stephen Wynn and a bus driver monitor, Jackie Lee. They placed first in the Special Needs Division at the Syntex School Bus Safety Road EO. Billy Dragu of Austin High School and one of our hosts for today's convocation for leading the Maroon Theater Group to a first place UIL one-act play competition. And I would be remiss if I didn't recognize Carolyn Sweet from Metz Elementary School, who was, of course, our AISD Teacher of the Year. Now, many people contributed to this, and so we've had our rhythm of how we work. And you need to scroll a little faster for me, okay? But we need to, these are people that our work kind of flows through, and I think it just kind of bubbles up to the system and helps us all move in the right direction. Now, in our efforts to prioritize, we are using national research about the 5 most successful urban districts in the country. And I wanted to share some of this with you, the big buckets of how we're looking at our work. These are going to include, and I think I have a slide on the whole child piece that we've been talking about, and I won't read all these to you. You're going to see them over and over again this school year. It goes beyond the instructional core with English language learners, social emotional learning, looking at the individualized child through our child study teams, and of course health and wellness and all the other extracurricular things that make our students more successful in their academics. We're also going to focus on human capital, and that's you, the adults. We want to emphasize our staff selection, our focus on performance, because we're going to still have to make reductions, and so it's got to be about quality, 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 and that's both for leaders on the front lines with staff and central administration. And we want to build the capacity of people who are still here with us. And then we're going to have to focus on system improvements. I've highlighted this a little bit before, but technology, facilities, budget, just the HR process, these are all systems that we're integrating to ensure that we have data at our fingertips, known as a cloud, so that people can look at the data and have greater access to information in real time. So we have this thing called the AISD Cloud. If you haven't signed up for it, if you haven't looked at it, it's the cloud computing anywhere, anytime. We're moving from a desktop model where your information stays at school. I've heard of teachers sitting in the parking lot trying to get wireless so they can get their information for students. Just crazy stuff. We want to make it easy for you. So it's greater access for students, educators, and eventually we're going to move it on to parents. We're going to have greater mobility with our information access for multiple sites. We're going to have equity in how we do our work because it's going to allow entry through multiple technologies. So if you don't have to be the cool technology kid in the school and have to know every program and have everybody come to you. And while those people will still be cool in their own minds, you will be cooler because you'll be able to find the information that you want. And I encourage you to really get your training in that. And it's going to bring some consistency to all the systems so that everybody's pulling from the same data sources. So it'll be once we put the quality data in, everybody can pull that quality data out and look at it in the way that a bus driver might look at it differently to a science teacher, to the superintendent, to a board member. And so we need to give people the flexibility to use the technology for the ways that make sense in their roles. Now we have a lot to celebrate, but we still have some big work to do, and I want to talk to you about those things together. If we're going to move together, remember, if we're going to move together, then we really need to be together. And I mean that sincerely, especially after this last school year. So one of the things that we need to really be is be in school, right? These are kind of like my expectations for things you'll talk about, reflect on, and work on as a school or a department, school board, superintendent, school board. We'll all be doing this. That we are here, we are present, both students and staff. And while staff is on average here, 95% of the time, we have schools and sites where those numbers are far lower. And so we know that we made a commitment, a budget commitment, to reduce the use of substitutes. So I can take $1 million out of the substitute budget, not out of staff and positions, if we can reduce that number so I can shift it to pay for the salaries of people we have. So we really need people to commit to being in school with the students. And I know they act sometimes like they don't want to see you, but I do know that they know when you're not there, and they do, in their own special way, want you to be there as their teacher. We know that, that for just our culture and the way that we work together, we want people to learn more of the social emotional skills. This is the process where adults and children manage their behaviors. We make ethical choices and we're more effective when we show understanding and empathy for others. It means we can't beat each other to death over budget numbers and we can't call out kids in ways that makes them feel uncomfortable, and we can't incite little agitating things every different way, adult to adult, child to adult, adult to child, and so on. But we are really trying to focus on the individual student. I've talked a little bit about the child study teams, but we know that in our measures under Goal 3 about a child's self-confidence, about their attitudes towards school, those data points are not inspiring. We are struggling with having our students really self-report good experiences on the aggregate about being an AISD, and some schools, like I said, are really high, some are really low, and so the aggregate really doesn't tell us a lot, so you need to really look at those things at your schools. I won't belabor it, but I really want to promote wellness in terms of students and staff. Only 2/3 of our high school students meet our cardiovascular measures, and fitness programs should apply to every adult. I talked to you a little bit about kind of getting in front of the self-reporting that staff did about their concerns, but we know that a healthy lifestyle helps prevent everything from diabetes to high blood pressure, and we know this is a high-stakes, stressful work environment, and that's not changing anytime soon, so we want you and we need you to take care of yourself. Now, this is one that I wanted to talk a little more extensively about, and it's about reducing our disciplinary actions and over-identification of Hispanic and African American students to everything from ALC to our special ed programs. Now, we have seen that referrals have been decreasing, but the percentage of African Americans mandatory and discretionary removals is twice of any other student in AISD. And I don't have to tell you, you're in schools every day. They represent the smallest percentage of minorities in the district, right? So there's something about our culture, the way that we're doing this, that isn't serving certain populations well. And I know that that's a lot to kind of unpack in a staff convocation, but we really need to unpack it as a system. And you're going to hear me talking about it all year. But I talked to new teachers not too long ago, and I said it to them, and I'll say it to y'all. Our diversity is growing. It's a reality. It is the reality of AISD. You cannot be afraid of our kids. You cannot make judgments about them. And while, yes, some may be poor and language learners, we really don't know what they're bringing to the table and what their futures hold. And it's you, the staff in schools, oftentimes that makes and breaks it for them every day. So we can't teach them. We cannot teach them if we're constantly putting them out. So we're going to do all of ourselves a big favor by dealing with our issues in real time, in schools, in classrooms, every day, and we need them to be in school. Now, one of our other findings is about reading. We need to really raise the roof on reading or blow the cover off of the book or however you want to say it, but we're finding some real challenges, both short-term and long-term, primary and secondary, about reading. We found, or we know that research says that students spend less than 2% of their spare time reading. It actually decreases as they get older. And in AISD alone, 81% of 8th grade students who did not pass reading also did not pass science. So our direct correlation of that is like they had a 19% chance of passing science only if they passed reading. And so with numbers like that, we'll never beat this thing down and have kids be college ready if we don't really focus on reading. So much so that I'm working with the joint committee of the city, the county, and the school district to really focus on reading Austin-wide, educating parents about the value of reading, turning off the TV and picking up a book. I'm going to take this citywide and really help them put pressure on the community and on our families to help us with this part of our work. I need you to get into that cloud. I know that sounds kind of confusing if you haven't seen it, but this is the piece, and I had some really cute clouds that I was going to have the kids carry out, but we won't be doing that. But it's, you know, the cloud gives us kind of the no excuses environment. You'll be able to access it from any device. You don't have to be connected to anything. You can just go there from anywhere. Log in, you have everything. You won't have to do a bunch of different logins or even have your own computer. So just know that that information is available to you, and I need everybody to get into the cloud. And I'll close on this one. The final expectation is about being an ambassador for AISD. Every employee, every day, right? Parents depend on us to like tell them the skinny about what's happening in schools. And if we're not out there promoting our work, they're never going to support a bond or a TRE. And believe me, I've gotten that feedback. So we really need to, yep, we've got problems, you know, Jen, we have a process for reporting those issues. But when we're out, tell the truth about your school experience. And I would say that those people who are having a better experience aren't talking as much as those who have been chronically, frustrated with their experience in the district. But we need people who really care about the future of AISD to really get out there and advocate for public education in Austin. We took a beating at the state level, public education in general. There was a serious anti-education agenda going on, public schools, I mean. And so we have to kind of, the public's faith is kind of shaken, and we have to help rebuild that. And only you can help me do that. I'm only one person. Now, before I sign off, I'm going to do a little, we're going to sign off soon, and there's going to be an exercise back at our various sites that principals went over with me at our Administrators Institute using quotes. People picked them up. But we'll do that in a second. But in the spirit, the symbolic spirit of trying to get our whole district moving in the right direction, I'm going to ask y'all to do something that, you know, I've seen at UT games that they do with over 100,000 people. And it's the concept that symbolically folks sort of get into the groove of the game. And can somebody tell me, I know I'm new to Austin, what's the name of that? What's it called? No, yes, the Wave. Well, you know the Wave, yes, but it's Darrell Royal Memorial Stadium, right? Where everybody goes to the UT game. And so there's the, you know, so even without much provocation, right, they can get that whole 100,000, you know, 100,000 people doing the Wave. Now I'm going to try to figure out how to do that virtually, and we know now that we have a delay. So anybody, even if you're not the 12 schools on the screen, I'm going to ask you that when I get to the end of this side, that at your side, even though we can't see you, you kind of time yourself for the flow that's happening virtually at 12 schools. Now, I just have to say, I'm going to try. I'm going to try to do this in a way that captures my hopes for AISD. So here we go. Y'all know how this works. I've never been to a UT football game, by the way, so I don't really know what I'm talking about. But I'm willing to try it. So you know how this works, right? I'm not the right cheerleader, but can I get two of y'all, one here and one there? Can y'all come and do, you know how it works, right? You go to football games, right? Yeah, a little bit. Theater people. Can't ever go right here, sweetie. All right, so here's how it goes. We're going to start, and then when we get to the end, I need my virtual friends over here. Anderson, Bowie, and McCallum will start. And then I'll point at the other screen so the other people know it's time to stand. All right? Okay, so y'all know how this works, right? Because I don't really know how you do. Ready? We're going to start over here. Lawrence, and let's go. Wave. Anderson. Let's wait for it. Anderson, Bowie, McCallum. Wave. Yay! There they go. Oak Springs. Y'all, let's go. Baldwin, Linder. You can do it, stand up. And there they go. Let's go. Let's go one more time around. Okay, come on, they can be a little faster, right? Anderson, McCallum, Croc. So clearly, I know that we're out of time and we have to wrap it up, but I just want to thank everyone for their participation today. Clearly, are they still waving? Okay, so clearly we have a few things to work on. But, but that's to be expected, right? Nothing's totally perfect, so we've got to work out some kinks, which is a great way to end our convocation. So I just want to thank you for coming out today, for participating, and just know that I'm sending you, where'd my, okay, never mind. So much for the kids. I'm sending you virtual love tabs all over AISD, thanking you for all the work that you've done this year and for all the work that we'll be doing this upcoming school year. So have a great day, and I'll see y'all around the district.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome back to the same old place that you laughed about. Well, the names have all changed